The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Ger McCarthy, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Mangan, and I'm joined today by Star Sport editor Ger McCarthy. On today's show, we're looking ahead to a huge clash in the West Cork League Premier Division as defending champions Drinagh Rangers travel to Clonakilty Soccer Club in what is effectively a title decider on Sunday. So Ger McCarthy will be joining us later on to preview the big game. On this week's podcast, we're also chatting about Cork's tough home game against Donegal in the All-Ireland series this weekend. And there's a new personal best for Nicola Tuthill in the hammer throw as well. So a very busy week as always. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose Credit Union, choose local, choose community. So Kieran, let's start with Cork, who face Jim McGuinness's Donegal at home in their second group game in the All-Ireland series this Saturday. What can we expect going into this game? Obviously, it'll be a tough occasion for John Cleary's team.
It's going to be a very interesting test to see where this Cork team lie, because you can make a big argument, Dylan, for saying that Donegal are the form football team in the country at the moment. Won the Division 2 league title, are Ulster champions as well, are coming off the back of a good win against Tyrone last weekend and in their first game in this group. So Donegal are coming down and there is momentum behind them. And of course, they've Jimmy McGuinness, Jimmy's winning matches. They've the special one back in this year, and he's certainly working the oracles so far. So this is a huge test for John Cleary and his team. And it's just going to be very interesting to see where Cork gauge against a team like this, who I suppose as the season's gone on, Dylan, you'd have to put them amongst the All-Ireland contenders. Like, they're probably in the top four teams in the country right now. So for Cork, yeah, like I said, a great chance to kind of see where they are against a team of that standard. But like, Cork have that win against Clare in the bag. They have those 2 points on the board. And I'm thinking back to what John Cleary said a couple of weeks ago. Rewind to 2023, Cork beat Louth in their opening group game, and he felt it almost released some of that pressure on the Cork players, and they could go off and play, kind of express themselves more in the games that followed. So could we see something similar here, that Cork have 2 points on the board? That puts them, I would say, halfway towards a place in the knockout stages, considering that 3 teams out of the 4 will advance. So I'm not saying this is a shot to nothing for Cork, but it's just a chance for Cork in front of a home crowd in Páirc Uí Rinn. You could have 5,000 or 6,000 there on Saturday afternoon. So it's a chance for Cork, who won't be fancy to beat Donegal, to go out there, give it a shot, and who knows what might happen.
Yeah, and considering as well, like, Cork's league season this year kicked off with a loss to Donegal, is it also an opportunity for them to kind of see how far they've come? Because obviously the first couple of months of the season we were quite down on Cork. They weren't performing very well, and they've kind of grown into the year so far. So it's almost another opportunity for them to see where they're at, based on previous results as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Dylan, that this Cork team now is in a far better place than it was at the start of the season. Granted, when the league was kicking off, and that was the first game up in Ballybuffet at the end of January, the hope was that Cork could put together a promotion push and could be amongst the Donegals and Armaghs and trying to get up to Division 1. We all know it didn't turn out like that. Cork had a dreadful start to the league, lost the first 3 games, were chasing their tail for a small bit. But since then, things have settled down. Like, there's a consistency to this Cork team now that was missing at the start of the league. And I'd say people listening to this podcast are probably sick of me talking about Cork footballers and consistency, because it's that one ingredient that the Cork football team needs and has done for a long time. And it's the one ingredient that always seems to go missing at certain points of the season. But where Cork are now a lot more consistent than where they were when they played Donegal in that first game. The team has changed too. Obviously, we've Chris Kelly in goal, and there's been a lot of other changes throughout the team as well. And it's a more settled Cork team that we're going to see on Saturday afternoon against Donegal. And we're looking at the likes of the Conor Corbett's, Chris O'Jones, Brian Hurley. Like, if they can bring their top form, they can trouble this Donegal team. But it's like, for example, we need to see the Brian Hurley that we saw against Kerry and Clarny a couple of weeks ago, and maybe not the Brian Hurley we saw in the opening game, where he had a few uncharacteristic wides and a few uncharacteristic misses. So if Cork can bring their best version of themselves, I think they could rattle this Donegal team, because you've got to remember, like, Donegal have only had a short turnaround since they played Tyrone last weekend, and it's a long trip from Donegal down to Leaside on Saturday. You know, it's a quick turnaround for them. So you'll be hoping that they'll be a small bit tired. I know they're big into their ice creams and ice baths up in Donegal at the moment. So we'll see if they'll be having a 99 on Saturday after the game, because by all indications the weather is going to be quite good. But hopefully it'll be the Cork fans who'll be digging in their pockets for ice creams after to celebrate.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The game, of course, is on in Páirc Uí Rinn, not Páirc Uí this weekend. And do you think that might actually, in a funny way, help Cork, because they often have trouble getting big crowds into Páirc Uí Rinn, smaller stadium, better chance of filling it up and getting a decent crowd in there, and that can only help the atmosphere, surely.
100%, and that's a great point. Like, with the greatest respect to the footballers, I think we all know that the support of the Cork footballers is an extra level for the Cork hurlers. We've seen it again in recent weeks with a piece in the Star last week, and it kind of highlighted that the last two Cork hurling games in the Munster Championship, there was almost 85,000 supporters at both games combined, which is absolutely incredible. You compare it when the Cork footballers took on Limerick in the Championship a couple of weeks ago, there was just over 4,000 in Páirc Uí Rinn. The Cork hurlers took on Limerick in the Championship, Munster Senior Hurling Championship, and it was sold out 41,700 or something like that. So it just shows the hurlers get the followers, and the hurlers get that swell of followers. But you'll be hoping that we'll have 5,000 or 6,000 in Páirc Uí Rinn on Saturday, because that will create a far better atmosphere. Obviously, Páirc Uí Rinn is a much tighter ground. It's a much smaller ground, and 5,000 or 6,000 in Páirc Uí Rinn will create a good noise. The game isn't on GA Go either, you know. So that means if you want to see the Cork footballers play on Saturday, or if you want to see Donegal play and to see the Jim McGuinness effect, you have to get to Páirc Uí Rinn. It's a 2:30 throw-in on a bank holiday Saturday. I'm hoping we'll have a good crowd there. And it's just what these Cork footballers deserve. Like, they put in so much hard work, and they've given so much to the jersey over the last couple of years. And there has been some good moments in there. I'm thinking back to the last year's kind of Sam Maguire campaign. Like, they'd great win against Roscommon and Páirc Uí Rinn, super win against Mayo as well, beat Loud, and they got to Croke Park in an All-Ireland quarter-finals. So there is something in this Cork team, and I just think it'd be great to see more Cork fans getting behind them. Okay, fans are going to say, give us a team that's winning, you know. So it kind of, success goes hand in hand with a big crowd. So if the Cork footballers do manage to turn over Donegal on Saturday, I think that could be a huge turning point for this team, because it'll get more fans behind them and just increase the belief and momentum in the footballers. I think that's what we all want to see.
Yeah, and just finally, before we move on, there is a small chance of an upset here. Like Donegal will be favourites, but Cork can, like you say, put it up to Donegal. And we saw last year that avoiding the preliminary knockout stage in the All-Ireland was really important coming into the summer. So if Cork, with 10-15 minutes left, are still in this game, like, that's a huge opportunity for them to really give a great go at the All-Ireland this year.
Exactly. If Cork, like I said, we'll know on Saturday evening a lot more about this Cork team and where they realistically stand in terms of All-Ireland semi-finals, All-Ireland quarter-finals, where their ceiling is for this season. So that's what I'm interested to see. This is Cork going up against, like I said earlier, an All-Ireland contender. I'm just looking at Donegal's results here. In the Ulster quarter-final, they beat Derry 4-11 to 17 points. Then they beat Tyrone after extra time in the Ulster semi-final. Then they beat Armagh in the Ulster final on penalties. And now they've backed it up with another win against Tyrone in the first round of the All-Ireland series. So, like, they've taken down Derry, they've taken down Tyrone twice, they've taken down Armagh. So this is a serious team, you know, kind of. And it's a team that they have Jim McGuinness at the helm, and if they can build momentum, I think they can be quite dangerous as this year goes on. And they've actually surprised me. I didn't think Donegal would be where they are right now, but it almost shows, like I said, that Jim McGuinness effect for what he can do. Cork will be looking to derail that Donegal juggernaut on Saturday. It's not beyond development's a possibility. If Cork, like I said earlier, can bring their best game, who knows what can happen. Like Cork have the forwards to trouble Donegal, and the likes of Conor Mahoney, who's been injured for so long, he's after another 2 weeks of training, so maybe we might see him on the bench, and coming off the bench as another option. Obviously, the likes of Colin O'Callaghan and Ian Maguire have been so strong in midfield, so there's a lot of positives for this Cork team. So I'm just looking forward to see how they measure up against a team of the ilk of Donegal.
Yeah, if I wasn't excited before, I'm definitely excited now. Like you say, a 2:30 throw-in on a bank holiday Saturday with a good weather forecast. What more could you want? So that is one to look forward to. And Kieran, someone else that's been exciting us in the Southern Star offices this week is Nicola Tuthill, who's proving that she belongs on the big stage. The Kilbrittain hammer thrower got a new personal best last week and has opened the door to both the European Championships and potentially the Olympics as well. This is just a brilliant story. We've been following Nicola's rise since, so we're talking 2019, 2020, which is like the pandemic year. In 2020, Nicola, who's from Kilbrittain, she was just 16 years old when she won the Irish Senior Women's Hammer at the National Championships, which was an incredible achievement for a 16-year-old. She's part of Bandon Athletic Club, and since then she's like the hammer that she throws, Dylan. She's gone up, 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 and up. It's just been an incredible rise, and she hit a new landmark last Friday. She was competing abroad. I think it was in Slovakia, and she broke the 70-meter barrier for the first time. She threw 70.32, which is a huge PB. It bettered her latest PB that she set around a month ago by over 1.5 meters, and that's big news. And Nicola's broken down a barrier here. She's broken that 70-meter mark for the first time, and I've spoken a fair bit to Nicola over the years, and especially coming into this year, she kept saying to me it was a big target of hers to get beyond 70 meters, because okay, she's still under 23 level next year, but when she's competing against the seniors, you need to be thrown over 70 to have any chance of being competitive against them. And she did that the last day. So what this means is she has thrown her way, or catapulted herself onto the Irish team for the European Championships in Rome next week, which will be her first senior European Championships. And that's going to be huge for Nicola in terms of experience. She's competing against the best in Europe. So that's huge. Ticks a huge box for her. But the Olympics is quite exciting too. It's putting her in the conversation for the Olympics. I've spoken to Nicola before, and Los Angeles in 2028 was always the more realistic goal because of her age. She's only 20 years of age. But all of a sudden, the door is slightly ajar. The door is open. There is a path for Nicola to get to Paris in the summer. A lot needs to happen in the next month or so. A lot needs to go right for Nicola. She was telling me just earlier this week that she'd need to throw over 70 meters at least 4 more times before the qualification cutoff point at the end of June. But her 70.32 in Slovakia on Friday, that's an Olympic B qualifying standard. So, like I said, it does open the door. So we need to see what happens in the weeks ahead. If she goes well at the European Athletics Championships in Rome, who knows? If she could throw over 70 there, will that put it in her head? I've 3 more weeks left to get a few more kind of 70 plus throws. We'll have to wait and see. But it's very positive for Nicola. It's very very encouraging for what's to come, because she's still very much at the start of her career, and there's so much bigger and better things to come. But she's certainly making a name for herself, Dylan. Yeah, I was going to say, she's on the front of this week's Star Sport, which is in shops now. But leaving aside the potential for a Paris Olympics, how exciting is it to see her still at the age of 20 break that 70-meter barrier? And if you think of the coming kind of 5, 6, 7 years for her as an athlete, in 7 years she'll still only be 27. That's insane, So how exciting is it to see someone that we followed from such a young age kind of now announcing herself in the big leagues? It's so exciting because, like I said at the start, Nicola's one of these great West Cork stories. Her father Norman built her a homemade throwing cage on their farm in Kilbrittain. That shows the lengths that Nicola's mom and dad have gone to
kind of help her chase her dream and achieve her dream. And we were talking to her mom at a West Cork Sports Star Award presentation at the end of last year, and it was a dirty kind of winter's night, let's put it like that. And Nicola and her mom were telling me that Nicola was out throwing on the homemade cage in Kilbrittain, and her mom, with the wellies on, was going off down the field to collect the hammers to bring them back up for Nicola to throw them again. So it's very much, Nicola has just a great support team around her in terms of her family and her coaches, and even like Bandon Athletic Club too, where it all started. And the best, like I said, is yet to come. And like, she's only 20 years of age, Dylan, but only one Irish woman ever, Eileen O'Keefe from Kilkenny, has thrown further than Nicola Tuttle in the women's hammer. And Eileen O'Keefe's national record, I think it stands since 2006, 2007, around then, and it's over 73 metres. So Nicola now is only 3 metres off that. And if we're looking at the last couple of years, the jumps in Nicola's kind of best from year to year to year, like she's already, I think, put 2.5 metres on her best throw from 2023, which was at the European Team Games. So it just shows if she continues like this, like she's going to be the latest kind of athletic superstar to come out of West Cork. We really are spoiled here at the moment.
Yeah, it's a real a star factory down here in West Cork at the moment. So we'll be watching Nicola's performance in the European Athletic Championships with a close eye in the coming weeks. But briefly moving on now, Kieran, the news broke Wednesday evening, that the Beara senior football team has pulled out of this year's county championship. It's the same as last year, so not necessarily a shock, but still some kind of somber news nonetheless.
Yeah, it's fierce disappointing, because if we think of Beara football, it's a proud division. Like there's a history of winning county senior championships out in Beara. Like, they love their football in Beara, kind of with the greatest respect to the hurling in Beara. Like, it doesn't exist as such. It's all about football when you think about Beara and the 6 clubs out there. Like, they're fierce, proud kind of bastions of football. So for this to happen, it is disappointing. But like last year, they just didn't have enough players available to put a panel together for the county championship, which was actually kicking off today week, next Thursday. They were due to play Muskerry in Dunmanway in the first game of the Division College's unseeded section, but Beara informed the county board on Wednesday that they just don't have the players available, so they had to pull out. There was a manager installed for this year. As far as I know, it was Andrew Fitzgerald, who was there back in 2022 when they competed last. But for, like I said, that lack of player availability means Beara won't be there. And it's just disappointing for Beara, because, like I said, Dylan, it's such a proud football division. You really just hope that Beara can get their senior football team back on track, because if you look at the likes of Castledown and Garnish and Oran and Adrigole and Glengarry in action in the Junior B football championship as well the last couple of weeks. Like, Garnish went quite well last year. Adrigole went really well in the intermediate championship. So there's good football teams there. It's just about getting it all together, bringing it all together, and hopefully that can be achieved in the years to come, because it would be super to see Beara back in the county football championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed for next year and the coming years as well. Okay, and Ger McCarthy joins us in just a moment to preview this weekend's West Cork League Premier Division tie between Clonakilty Soccer Club and Drinagh Rangers. They're very close in the table. Drinagh need a win to defend their title, so we're in for a tense affair this Sunday.
This is the title decider. It really is, Dylan. And just for a bit of context for our listeners, the table has been updated since we were talking to Ger McCarthy earlier this week. So before we were talking to Ger, Drinagh Rangers had 3 games left, and 2 of those games were against Mizen Hob and Skibbereen. But since then, and I'm looking at the table here on the West Cork League website, Drinagh have been awarded wins in those 2 games. So without kicking a ball, they've added 6 points to their total. So that means they are now just 2 points behind Clonakilty going into Sunday's game. And this is the last game of the season. So what we have Clonakilty Soccer Club on 46 points. We have Drinagh Rangers on 44 points. And we're going into the Premier Division title decider. It's effectively a final. Drinagh Rangers have to win to hold on to their title, while the draw will do Clonakilty Soccer Club. So it could not be set up any better. Like, this is a massive game in West Cork soccer, because Clonakilty have never won the Premier Division title. So this would be huge for the club. look at the Drinagh Rangers. They are the serial winners over the last couple of years. They win everything and they know how to win the big trophies. And they've done incredibly well, Drinagh, this year because they lost their dream management team at the end of last season. And Danny McQueen has come on board this year. And it's just a testament to him and the Drinagh players that even though there's been a bit of a transition in terms of management and players, that they are in this title fight. And they have come back from a long way. Clonakilty always had I suppose Drinagh had always had 4 or 5 games in hand in Clonakilty because Drinagh were involved in cup competitions at the start of the year. So it was always in the back of our mind, okay, if Drinagh keep winning, could we have a scenario like this? And we do. So what it is, it's a shootout, Dylan. Sunday morning, Darrara College, 11 a.m, Clonakilty Soccer Club and Drinagh Rangers. The winner is crowned champion. So, Ger, on Sunday morning, all roads lead to Clonakilty. This is the title decider. The winner of this game will effectively win the Premier Division. Just as a bit of context, this is Clonakilty Soccer Club's last game of the league season, while Drinagh Rangers do have 2 outstanding games after this against Mizzenhob and Skibbereen. But you'd effectively think that whatever happens, Drinagh would win those 2 games. So it comes down to what happens on Sunday.
It does. It's a title decider in every aspect of it because, as you said correctly, Clonakilty have only one game. Clonakilty Soccer Club have only one game left at the top of the table. There's a huge gap and has been a gap at certain times of the season of up to 15 points between the 2 teams. But Drinagh just have, because they went on such a cup run in the Junior Cup earlier in the year, they have a lot of games in hand. But effectively, yes, you would expect Drinagh to beat an already relegated Skibbereen. And certainly you'd imagine they'd be too strong for Mizzenhob. So as it stands, this really is a decider. And it's got all the tension, it's got all the build-up of the Beamish Cup final turn between the 2 same clubs, which Clonakilty won on a fantastic game of football. It was 3-2 in Lyre not so long ago. But yes, this is huge for both clubs for different reasons. But it's huge and it's going to attract a big crowd and it's going to have a big match atmosphere and no little drama either, I would imagine.
So like you said there, Ger, Clonakilty top table at the moment. So they're currently 8 points ahead of Drinagh Rangers. Like we said, Drinagh have those 2 games in hand. So let's say Drinagh win those 2 games, for example. That's only it's a 2-point gap. So going into this weekend's game, Clonakilty know a draw or win will see the title for them. But Drinagh Rangers have to win. So looking at Clonakilty for a second, I think the mindset of the team will be going into a game knowing, okay, a draw is enough. But you can't go out and play for a draw because we know what's going to happen then. So how would Clon approach Sunday?
I think Clon will approach Sunday the way they approach the Beamish Cup, or at least they should anyway. Kieran, they've got to go for it. You can't sit back against Drinagh. If you sit back and defend deep against Drinagh, as Clon Soccer Club have found out many, many years previously, they'll eventually pick you off. What Clonakilty possess, there's 2 things about Clonakilty coming into this that are different from the last time they would have played Drinagh before the Beamish Cup. They hadn't beaten Drinagh in a high profile important game, and certainly not in a cup final of the magnitude of the Beamish Cup. So mentally they know now that they can beat them, and I think that's huge going into a league game. The second thing is what Clon have more than Drinagh and probably more than any other team in the West Cork League Premier Division top tier. They've pace all over the pitch. They've got experience, yes. There's likes of Alan Murphy, Ian O'Driscoll, Liam Anthony White, but they've got pace all over the pitch. Chris Collins, Joe Edmead, Reuben Henry. And what they've done is that they've finally, I think with John Leahy and with Lauren Edmead as well coming in as well this year, I think that's important. Joe Edmead's dad as the coach, they've found a way, I think, to get the best out of the players that they have at their disposal. They haven't always been able to do that. They've always won big games, but they've never done it consistently over an entire season. But Clon Soccer Club's Beamish Cup victory showed them that they were capable of beating Drinagh in a big game. But what they also did was they managed to do that playing a brand of football that was just so easy on the eye. Fantastic game. They're going to have to do that and more this coming weekend because they're facing the defending champions. They're facing a team that's in transition. There's just no doubt about that. Since Don Hurley and Declan Deasy, who won all those trophies with Drinagh down through the years, have moved on. Now it's Danny McQueen and Robert O'Regan. But what they have also done, Drinagh, is they've introduced a lot of young players. So they have the 2 McQueens, Robbie and Tom, who are playing superb. Harry Carey stood out for me last weekend against Dunmanway as well in the middle of the pitch, where I haven't often seen him play there, himself and Tom as that midfield pivot. That was interesting to see that. So there's just so much riding on this game, Kieran. But Clon's mentality has changed since they last played them because they've beaten Drinagh in a big game. But now they've got to go and do it again. But I think they'd be wary of Drinagh. They certainly respect them, but they've also got a confidence about them now that they may not have had. And I don't underestimate the fact as well, this past weekend, they beat Tor in the Premier Division Cup semi-final. That was not easy. Tor have had a fantastic season. So they're in form, they're playing really well, but so are Drinagh. So it's all set up for what should be an absolutely cracking occasion.
It really is all set up, and it's been a very kind of interesting league to watch it unfold, because Clonakilty have been on top of Togo for a long time, and Drinagh Rangers, they've always been playing catch up for I suppose, right through the season. But as we're coming towards the climax now, Drinagh getting closer and closer and closer, and like you said, they're defending champions. Okay, they're in transition, but a lot of those players, they know how to win the big games and the big titles here in West Cork, so they have the experience. And do you think that experience will help them on Sunday?
Absolutely, and it's a very, very good point, because last weekend in the match reporters in this week's Southern Star, they had to beat Dunmanway Town, one of their arch rivals over the last few seasons. Now, Dunmanway weren't at full strength this past weekend, but it was 0-0 at half time. And I've never seen Drinagh Rangers miss as many chances as you'll read in the report throughout the game, especially in the first half. And there was a couple of occasions with a bit more composure. Dunmanway should have scored and should have gone ahead. So Drinagh got a fright last weekend. They didn't play to their full potential. They missed far too many chances for Danny McQueen and Robert O'Regan's liking. But what they had, as you said, was the experience not to panic. They had Barry O'Driscoll up front, who got that opening goal, and then the pressure valve was released and they started to play, and they scored twice more, Robbie and Tom McQueen, to seal the victory. But 3-0 on paper looks like a pretty routine, straightforward win. It was far from it. They needed Garrod White, they needed JJ Collins, they needed the other Barry O'Driscoll, while all around them, the younger players, you could see it, were just getting that little bit more angsty when they weren't getting that goal and a couple of scares at the opposite end. It could very easily have drifted away from Drinagh last weekend. We wouldn't even be having this conversation there today, or this big game coming up. But because of their experience, because they've been in this position so many times before, the younger Drinagh players are learning from the older guys who've been there, done that. This weekend is a different game for Drinagh in terms of pressure, though, because they're coming into it having lost the Beamish Cup final to Clon. They're coming into it being the hunter rather than usually they're the hunted at the top of the table and other teams are trying to catch them up. There's a very different dynamic coming into the game, so it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the situation. What I would say is, based on what I saw last weekend, if Drinagh play as poorly as they did for the first half against Dunmanway, they're going to get beaten. And they know that. They've got to put in a much better performance. The fact that they struggled for so long to put away Dunmanway and miss so many chances might be in the back of their minds. Whereas Clon went to Tor and beat Tor, who are, again, as we've already mentioned, one of the form teams of this year, along with Bunratty United at the top end of the table. So a lot of pressure on Drinagh, because this is their title, as you said. They don't want to give it up. They certainly don't want to give it up to their arch rivals, their new rivals and their new challengers. But they're also playing an opponent, and this is the thing, I think they know them so well, and they know each other so well. So it's going to be a question of tactics. Who's going to do something slightly different to the Beamish Cup final? Will we see Harry Carey and Tom McQueen in the centre of the park, or will we see Barry just was playing a lot deeper than I've seen him play up front for Drinagh before? Will he drop back and cause more damage there? Will the likes of Owen Hurley, Tom McQueen, who's going to be the person that stands up? And for Clon, Kieran, it boils down to this. They've got to keep their composure. They've got to understand that they can't win it in the first 20 minutes or even halfway through the game, that if they fall behind or if things go against them, they've got to keep their composure. Now, they've gotten better at it this season, but on the sideline and on the pitch, they've got to keep their heads, because this is a high-pressure, high-intensity game. And look, we've written about it extensively in the Southern Star all these years, the West Cork League. It's a small pocket. It's a small pocket of people that love it and follow it and that are passionate about it. This season has been brilliant. The quality of football has been far better than I've seen in previous seasons. We've got a group of teams at the top end of the West Cork League that are really playing attractive football. The Bunratties, the Tors, the Salans, and even the teams that have struggled, the likes of Lyre and Skip, have had their moments as well. It's been a really good, positive year. What we need is a positive conclusion. We had a fantastic day out at the Beamish Cup, which we reported in the Southern Star. 16 years, Clonakilty had never won it. But there's so much pressure on this game coming into it. I just hope it's not decided by a moment of controversy. I hope we have an outright winner or an outright result, because I think it would be a fitting end to what's been a brilliant season. And what an occasion it's going to be.
Obviously, we said there, Drinagh didn't hope to win this title. They've won it multiple times over the last couple of years. Clonakilty, if I'm right, they've never won the Premier Division title. And in this Thursday Southern Star, Clan manager John Leahy said he'd swap the Beamish Cup to win this. He's been involved in Clonakilty soccer, I think, since the since the late 80s, 90s. So he's kind of he's a dyed-in-the-wool clan soccer man. He knows how much this would mean for the club. How much would this mean to this group of players, but the management team and everyone involved in Clonakilty soccer?
Well, firstly, there would be no Clonakilty Soccer Club if there wasn't John Leahy. I think that's a fair comment, and anyone that knows anything about West Cork League would tell you that. There's been soccer played in Clonakilty from what I gather since 1967. I think that was the earliest it was played when there was organised games, and there was times when in Clonakilty when it was authorities were trying to stop it being played. That's a whole other podcast, but they persevered. I've been involved, or lucky enough to be involved with clan teams that won a second division when there was 3 tiers, a first division, a Beamish Cup, but we've never won a Premier Division. The town of Clonakilty has never won a Premier Division title. So it would be absolutely huge for the players currently playing, for the management currently playing, for their own particular reasons. To do a double would be an unbelievable achievement. But for the town of Clonakilty and for the promotion of soccer, this is much bigger. Now, they don't want to talk about that because they don't want to put any extra pressure on the players, and I get that. But it would be absolutely massive. There's so many other distractions in the town of Clonakilty side, like rugby, like GA, like loads of other sports. Soccer rarely has its day. But winning the Beamish Cup drew a lot of eyeballs on the club. A lot of supporters that don't normally go were there that day. A huge amount will be there on Sunday as well. So it would be huge for Clon. But to be fair, if you flip that coin, no other club in West Cork, or Cork, from what I can gather, has soccer at its core than the village of Drinagh. And what they've achieved, as we have outlined in the Star over all these years, is phenomenal. For the group of players that are playing for Drinagh and for those that have come through their academy, for the facilities that they have in Clonakilty Park and how they've developed them, this is equally huge for Drinagh. For years, they've had stable management, winning trophies. It was routine, almost routine. Now they have a new management team. Now they have a new young team coming through. And, you know, I would have expected maybe a year or two of mid-table, possibly winning a cup here or there, that things would drop a little, but you would expect that. It hasn't happened because Danny McQueen and Robert O'Regan won't allow it to happen. So the fact that Drinagh have been the kingpins and remain the kingpins of West Cork League soccer means they have to be winning the league title. It's the thing that they've always said, Kieran, that defines them the most. Trophies are great, Premier Division Cups, Beamish Cups are fantastic. But being the best team in the region over a period of 18 matches over a what's been a long season, is what matters the most to this club. They don't think for a second, they understand what it means to climb Drinagh, but don't underestimate for a second what this would do for Drinagh with a new team coming through, the boost that would give them. So there's a huge amount riding on this game on Sunday because we have the 2 best teams in the region going head to head, the 2 best footballing teams from what I've seen this year as well. I know there's going to be a big crowd there. Both teams are very well supported, which is rare for soccer in West Cork. But when it boils down to it, this is exactly what everybody would want at the end of the season. They'd want the 2 best teams going at it in a final 90 minutes to decide the title, as we had. And we had a fantastic Beamish Cup final. I just hope we get a similar game on Sunday. And as I said, I hope we get a game. We will have controversy. There will be drama. There will be volleys being shot across from both sidelines. That's the same it is every Sunday. Same GA. But we'll have a fantastic game of football. And if anyone has never been to a West Cork League game, I would urge them to come to Darrara College at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. You'd be pleasantly surprised at the quality of football on display. And I just hope we get a winner that deserves it after 99.
It's so well set up, Ger. The reigning champions, Drinagh, they've been the best team in West Cork League for the last number of years. The pretenders to the throne, Clonakilty, won the Beamish Cup lately. So I'm going to ask you for your prediction. Just pop up behind me here, Ger, right? And these are front pages from Southern Stars over the last, I'd say, 12 months or so.
I know them well.
Who's going to be the front page of next week's Southern Star, and who's going to get their picture up in the next Southern Star Sport pop-ups? Will it be Drinagh Rangers or will it be Clonakilty Soccer Club?
The honest answer is, if Drinagh perform like they did last weekend, they're in trouble. If Clonakilty perform like they performed last weekend and carry the momentum that they have from the Beamish Cup success, they should win. But it's so difficult, Kieran, to separate these 2 teams. They're evenly matched all over the pitch. A draw will do Clonakilty, and I think, and I've been thinking a lot about it, I think that's the only outcome I can see at the moment. So I'm sitting on the fence and saying it's going to be a draw, but I'm also leaning towards the momentum that Clonakilty have gained, not just from the Beamish Cup, but this season. And I think the fact that they've beaten Drinagh already in a big game, I think that will edge it for them. And I think you'll be seeing a lot of very happy Clonakilty faces, soccer club faces on the front of that edition next week. That's what I believe, actually. But because it's Drinagh, I could well be wrong.
Brilliant. Roll on Sunday. Thanks, Ger.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, Kieran, it's Thursday morning and the Southern Star is in shops across West Cork and online via our e-paper. Now, what can West Cork sports fans look forward to in this week's edition?
This week's Star, as people will see when they pick it up today, is absolutely stacked. So obviously we've interviewed Nicola Tuttle that we talked about earlier, the big West Cork League Premier Division title that's well previewed with views from both camps. We have a great piece on Luke Mead, the new sit-down hurler, on his value and worth to the Cork hurling team. So that's one for Cork GA fans to check out. Also, Sacred Heart Secondary School, Clonakilty, have had an incredible season on the rugby field. They won the Munster Girls Senior and Junior Cup double. They won an All-Ireland Sevens title as well. They held their rugby awards at the school lately, and we were there talking to so many of the players involved, 6 players across the 3 teams, and we have a 2-page special including pictures of that in Thursday's Star. Also, Goleen footballers, they had a super win over Meatavara in the Confined Junior B Football Championship last weekend, and in today's Star you could read a 2-page spread on Goleen, including an interview with their chairman, Dermot Sheehan, who kind of keeps us up to date or brings us up to date on life in the club now. And he tells us why they turned down the chance to go up to Junior A this year and why they wanted to stay Junior B. Obviously, there's a Cork Donegal preview in there. And it's actually a sign of the times, Dylan. Fintan McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan won a bronze medal at the World Cup Regatta in Lucerne last weekend, and they barely get a mention on this podcast. That's the high standards that they've set themselves. We're so used to the 2 boys winning gold, but we have reaction from Fintan to that bronze medal in Thursday's Southern Star. Also news of Conor Horan's coaching Bible, I think, which is well worth checking out. And there's that and so much more. And also a shout out to Ballinaccarrigil's Maeve O'Neill, who set another personal best in 800 metres across the Atlantic in the States last weekend. Donnie AC athlete is doing great things. And I know she's coming home to West Cork very, very soon. She could even be back on West Cork soil now. So just a shout out to Maeve, just a well done and congrats on your season so far. So as you can see, there is loads in this week's Star.
Yeah, another great week to pick it up, especially with the bank holiday. There's some extra reading time there for everyone as well. So as always, if you're further afield, you can't make it to the shops this week, you can subscribe to the Southern Star and get our e-paper on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. We also have a free trial available at the moment. If you sign up for our annual option, you get the first 7 days for free, so you can test it out, see if you like it before you commit. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast. Thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. And if you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back again next week. And thanks for listening.